Trendsetters. I just thought I'd do a pretty quick video today on my experience with the road glide and the street glide. All the contention and everyone's views, and why I wanted to do that is that when I decided the time was right for me to sort of have a look at a touring bike, a lot of people had simply been down to dealerships and maybe owned a street glide and quickly test rode a road glide, or owned a road glide and quickly test rode a street glide or something like that. But I never really found a comparison from anyone that had actually owned them. And I was coming from a V-rod, so never say never, everything's about timing in life, and I decided I was moving into a touring type bike. So V-rod onto a touring bike, big step, and it took a lot of adjustment. But now I've owned 2 street glides, and I'm on my second road glide. I pretty much buy a bike every year, the current model. So 2018, 2019 street glide, 2020, and now the 2021 road glide. And I think I'm pretty well placed. Well, I can give you my opinion. Anyway, I'm no expert, I'm just a rider like everyone else, and if you just want an average guy's view on it without all the technical jargon and nonsense, and I did hear a lot of things of people's opinions and how they evaluated them, but mine's from 2 solid years of riding both bikes, and that's as simple as it is. So I just to start simply and to get the basics out of the way, the bikes, from what I understand, are all but identical, bar the look of the fairing and of course where the fairing's mounted. So street glide, bat wing mounted to the handlebars, road glide, shark fairing if you want to call it that, most people refer to it as, is frame mounted. And they're pros and cons for each, and they're both excellent bikes. I could have either one. I tend to, here in Australia, most people ride street glides. I think the sales are something like 10 to 1, and the road glide appeals to me because it's a little bit different here in our market. I know that's not the same for the rest of the world, but it is here, and I like having things that are a little bit unusual to the norm. So, but anyway, both excellent bikes, done plenty of long trips on them, 600, 800k days. Well, I know what that is in miles, 500 or so. I know plenty of you guys do a lot more miles on them, but I've done the big trips now, and that's the stage I'm at, and I wanted the comfort, and they're both awesome. It's as simple as that. I could own either one, and I'd be really happy. So getting down to the basics though, and what I've noticed is that I find maybe at slow speeds of manoeuvring that the street glide feels a little bit lighter. And I find when you're up and moving, and I'm riding in particularly windy roads, for me I find that road glide actually handles better. I'm not a huge guy, I'm 5'7", I weigh probably 78 kilos-ish, so a light frame, and I can manage either bike quite well. Almost flat foot, not quite, depends on the day. Sometimes I'm feeling taller than others. Not really. Pretty much flat foot on either bike. I use a Lucky Dave's step-up seat, but even on the standard CVO seats, I can pretty much just do flat foot. But I can do that. So getting back to the bikes and the fairings, street glide, closer in, probably cuts a little bit more wind, and you probably think at first look that's probably a great thing. And look, it is somewhat, but on a really hot, stinking day, I find with the Clockworks windshields that I use, perhaps cuts too much air, and I'm looking for a little bit more ventilation. The road glide tends to let a little bit more in, just nicely circulating air around. So street glide feels a little bit lighter. Road glide, you can feel a little bit more weight up the top with the fairing when you're just moving it in the car park and parking it and things like that, which is hardly ever. And riding it, the road glide for me is definitely marginally the better of the 2 handling bikes. So the other things that I heard people comment on was the words freaked out because the fairing wasn't turning, and that seemed a little bit extreme for me. And if you're riding a motorcycle, if something, in my opinion, that simple freaks you out, I know. I think that's a little bit peculiar in itself. So if you think about your riding styles and when you're actually riding and you're in a corner and you're counter steering, your fairing on either bike really isn't moving. The only time the fairing moves on the street glide is if you're turning it on a U-turn or you're parking it or whatever, and that's it. And if you're standing there staring at your fairing, I think that's kind of weird as well. So the same thing when you're cornering, you're doing a tight turn, you're looking around the corner where you're going, you're not staring down at your fairing. So counter steering, everything, normal riding, neither fairing's really moving. So I can't see that there's any difference at all. Driving out of the car park, yes, U-turning, I'm repeating myself now probably, but that's when it turns. But God, for those that say freak you out, it's like a way over exaggeration. I mean, think straight past it, sit back, enjoy your bike. If you're focusing that much on the fairing, and maybe you shouldn't be riding any bike with the fairing, maybe, I don't know. Some of you will probably have something to say about that, but I just think it's focusing on something that doesn't need that much attention when you should be relaxing and just enjoying the bike. So just basically that's my thoughts on it. I find the Road Glide a little bit better handling. I don't feel the weight while I'm moving at all. Trying to park it because I'm not that tall. Yeah, there's a little bit more weight up higher. Fractionally, not a big deal, and they're both awesome bikes. So I hope this is helpful for everyone, because as I said, it was a big step from me from a V-Rod into touring, and I researched the internet everywhere, and I really struggled to find content that was substantial in the sense of someone that had actually owned for a number of years both bikes, and that's why I thought I'd quickly make this today. So if you've got any comments, write them below, post your comments. If you like it, please subscribe and share. I'm trying to build up the channel. I'm trying to improve the content quality as I go. And that's as good as it is. So, but any questions, if you've got it, great. I've owned 2 of each, 2 years worth, so a year per bike, 4 bikes, 2 of each now. And as I said, they're both lovely. Buy the one you like. If you're into touring and you want a bit of comfort and you're looking to swap over, you can't go wrong with either of them. You definitely have to change the windshields out. On the Street Glide, I ran a 6.5 and an 8.5 Clockworks Sport Flare. At the moment on this bike, if anyone's wondering, that's a Clockworks 9-inch Sport Flare. That works well for me at my height. Cuts enough wind, lets a bit of airflow, the air through the front vents here. It's really nice, even on a cold day, rain, everything. I've gone through torrential rain. It's not like I'm getting soaked or anything like that, so they're permanently open, those 2 vents down the front of the Road Glide. But a little bit of circulating air, that's kind of nice at any time of the year, and it's not that gusty that it causes any drama. And they're my thoughts. So reaching, everything's off the toggles, so forget that. But if I want to touch the screen while I'm going along, it's not the end of the world, but everything can be done off the toggles. Really, absolutely everything. And that's what I do. I just sit back and I use the toggles. So as far as having that screen out in front, I like that. I like the little bit of space. And I will say the transition from bikes took me a good month or 2 months. So from the V-Rod onto the Street Glide, it seems so weird. Running boards, a less stretched out, more upright riding position. Don't expect to jump on these and do a half an hour run at the dealers and fall in love with it, because it's not going to happen. It's going to feel really weird. But don't be perturbed by that. Give it a chance and try and look past the psychological factor and relax with the bike and enjoy it. But when you buy it, it's a good month of riding. And similarly, when I jumped on, believe it or not, from the Street Glide to the Road Glide, there was still an adjustment period that I had to work through, the different characteristics of the bike and things, although they were both baggers, touring bikes, they have their own different characteristics and handling. So that's that. So anyway, any comments below? As I said, if you like, subscribe. Trying to build up the channel, and if you've got any questions, please post them below and feel free to share with your friends.